Hey everybody, welcome to Where's the Line? Alex on my left, Tillman on my right. How you doing, guys?
You just gonna jump into it. I got nothing.
Alright, so we got a couple of topics to talk about today. Moving throughout the week, yeah. Donald Trump's Twitter got banned not just from Twitter, but now from Facebook until, 2023?
They just not doing that?
Yeah, they just
no, 2 years ex post to his so it'll be in 2022 when he's released from Facebook
jail.
Prison.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I heard it's nice in there.
I know a lot of people who've been in there. It tends to be very conservative people.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no. See, that's what I'm talking about. The algorithms, man, I'm telling you.
All right, man. Have at it. Yeah, how true
I actually don't really want to talk about it.
Last week you decided you wanted to bring up Kamala Harris's Twitter.
That was last week.
Yeah, so why is Donald Trump being banned from Facebook different than Kamala not saying something about Memorial Day?
Because Kamala Harris and Memorial Day are not Donald Trump and Facebook?
They're similar. It's a public
figure.
In what
way?
They're a public figure dealing with a social media company.
Well, no, Kamala Harris wasn't dealing with a conflict from Twitter. She was just being inappropriate and insensitive. I think we covered that pretty thoroughly. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump...
Insensitive, maybe. Inappropriate. Just saying, have a good week, great weekend. I don't think that's inappropriate.
You even got to the point that she should know better.
She should, but that'll make her inappropriate. It's not an appropriate statement.
Okay.
All right, well...
So what do you want to... Donald Trump and Facebook. Okay, go ahead.
No, well, actually, outside of that, on the other note, because he brought up Memorial Day, that made me think about the retired. I believe he was a Navy. He was part of the Navy. Anyway, he had been asked to do a speech essentially to talk about Memorial Day, honoring the troops and stuff like that of Virginia, a specific part of Virginia, actually where he was from, and his speech, they asked him to edit his speech some because they didn't like the way it was going. And well, in the package that they cut off his speech, they cut off his mic while he was giving the speech and waited until he got past the part. That part was him giving the history of Memorial Day, explaining how he was explaining how it was black slaves after the after the Civil War, started slavery. They were Confederate slaves. Confederate soldiers and slaves or whatever. They started Memorial Day to memorialize the people that were lost in that. And he gave the whole history of that, and they didn't want any parts of it, and they cut his mic. And this was a white man, retired. We wouldn't even expect to have seen that, to see him doing it, let alone to turn around and have his mic cut. And I thought that was sad, but also hilarious. Because they asked him not to do it, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it anyway." So they just cut his mic.
So what?
I should have sent you that. I guess in that, but yeah.
Well, no, I don't think that Memorial Day is solely based on the black soldiers, ex-slaves from the Civil War, but it was a portion of what was being memorialized because they were added to the memorial component. I don't know that
there was no Memorial Day before that day.
Well, before the Civil War,
it was the day after the war.
Right, but and black soldiers who died were considered as part of the memorial. I don't think it was founded by the black soldiers.
Well, I'm not.
But it did include.
He started.
It was inclusive.
That's what he said.
Yeah, no, it was inclusive, but I don't think it was. It was a federal thing, but it included the black soldiers who did die in the war.
I don't know if.
But that is history. That's right.
All I know is that he was speaking to the history of Memorial Day, and they cut his mic.
Seems like a bad move.
And then when he got done talking about what black people involvement, they cut his mic back on.
Oh, okay.
But
I didn't hear about this or see this.
Yeah, I was just bitching. I thought it was hilarious to me. But anyway.
Well, I think that's more interesting than Donald Trump.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen.
No, it definitely shouldn't happen. Well, I don't think they should be cutting his mic just out of respect and honor of him.
Yeah. If he's got something to say, then let him say.
He has something to say. Unless he's, getting up there and saying burn down America, I think that you can let the man speak. And from his perspective, he has extensive knowledge on the subject. Let him talk. Yeah.
I don't know that. I agree with you completely.
No, I didn't know anything about it either.
About the inclusiveness of what Memorial Day is, and the entity or the institution wanted to I don't believe in censorship of any kind.
Yeah.
Wanted to censor what he was saying, then I think that's absolutely wrong, because then you're denying the true history, which is what we were talking about as it relates to critical race theory and things like that. The 1619 project, being genuine and truthful about the facts of history, not swayed by bias or opinion, being truthful about them. If they took that away and he didn't get a chance to say that this was the first moment that black soldiers were memorialized as well, then he should have been able to say that. Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's what I say. I don't know what the exact truth is in that, because I never heard about black.
Well, this goes to what you always talk about with the media or any other person influencing what's getting out there, the algorithms, right?
Yes.
Because I hadn't heard this story. And I watch a good bit of news now. Typically, it's a conservative news channel with 3 letters. You
wouldn't hear about it.
I probably didn't hear about it. But I can tell you all about Kamala Harris and her tweet.
Of course. But even then, and that's why I'll say on the Trump thing, that could lead more to this conversation of, because you said you don't believe in censorship of any type. And I do believe in censorship. I believe in censorship but I only believe in censorship when we're talking about things that are truly hateful, hurtful, internet-wise.
Okay,
and
so you agree with it
in person, if you see me, you can call me whatever you want to call me. You have to deal with those consequences.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, on the internet, there's no consequence for your freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Therefore, I don't believe you should have the freedom of speech on the internet.
Yeah, because someone's hiding behind a screen.
Wait a minute, you support then Donald Trump's banning from Facebook?
I don't know what he said or what happened or what was done.
Well, they're trying to tie it to the January 6th riot at the Capitol. They're saying that he incited.
I feel like he should be in cuffs right now for that.
You really do?
Oh, yeah, 1,000%.
So the Ayatollah Khomeini or whatever in Iran and other Middle Eastern, the Syrian president who spew genocide, racial hatred, call for the death of Americans who still have active Twitter and Facebook accounts. You don't think that they should be banned too?
Yeah, if somebody's saying that, then ban them.
But they didn't. They did Donald Trump. So to me, that became a political position that Facebook was taking, creating a bias that does directly influence the younger generations who are more in tune with social media when Twitter, Facebook, and all of them took Donald Trump's voice out.
Yeah.
Because now if you listen to his whole speech that day on January 6th, he did not tell them to go riot. He did not. Watch the whole thing.
And he told them to go down there and fight.
No, he did not.
Well, Giuliani said trial by combat.
We can't keep doing this. We gotta, he said to go down there. I'm going to be with you. We gotta go down there. We have to fight. That's what he said.
Fight this process, not go fight them.
Okay, whatever he meant by it.
So when
we have to go down there and fight.
All right.
And then maybe they just
Joe
took it the wrong way.
And other presidents haven't said very similar things. As a matter of fact, there was a clip that they had what the words Donald Trump said right next to what things Biden have said in the past, and they're exactly the same.
Okay.
And yet Biden didn't get. I mean, are you going to argue that the media didn't go out of their way to censor Donald Trump? Period, across the board. Anything he said for 4 years.
To censor?
To criticize, ridicule.
You mean the internet? You mean Twitter?
I mean, I'm talking about all of them. The media, social media, all of them.
The news constantly reported that Donald Trump has been the biggest thing in the news since he started running. He was the biggest thing in the news, period. He was the biggest draw.
From a critical point of view, where everything that he said was spun out of control or in a wrong direction. Well, however you heard it, they heard it, whatever. I've watched it. And I don't get the same thing that they get from it. Now, I listen to Joe Biden and I want to rip the man's eyeballs out sometimes because he's just either blatantly incompetent, stupid, or thinks he can shove something down our throats. But yet he doesn't. He gets asked questions like, "What's your favorite ice cream?"
Well, I mean, he's initially less confrontational, I would say,
and incompetent.
He may be. I don't
want to chase a rabbit. I mean, politically, the question is Facebook and censorship of Donald Trump, I think, is absolutely inappropriate. It shows bias. It shows social media bias. And if you're going to censor Donald Trump and not censor other international individuals who spew hatred, death to America, and or their other nationalities, races, whatever, and you're going to leave them live.
Have you ever heard of Louis Farrakhan?
Yeah,
He's
he's live on Facebook. Yeah.
No, he's not. Louis Farrakhan was banned from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube like over a year ago now. He's been banned. He was banned way before Donald Trump was, and before conversations with banning Donald Trump, he was banned.
Well, his is the anti-Semitic component. I think is what.
Well, that's what they turned to when they really did go ahead and do the ban.
Right.
Was talking about him being anti-Semitic, but even at that time, and it's progressed more now. But we're talking about any time that someone says that that Israel is doing something wrong, then that's anti-Semitic. Somehow you're attacking the religious based on saying things that the state is doing is wrong. And so he took issues with the state and some of the things that the state was doing.
I actually think I've never seen a
that
video of him stating.
And he's definitely said some things. He's definitely said some things.
No, like the words "I am anti-Semitic"
from that.
No, I mean I think he actually said.
I've never heard that, but.
I mean, you probably looked it up, but
I wouldn't doubt it. But that's why I say the reason I asked if you heard about Louis Farrakhan is because I would say he would be considered politically the complete opposite of Trump, truly.
Right.
As in,
and if he's
been Joe Biden, there's been way over decades.
Okay,
but he was banned. So to say that they're not banning these people,
no, that's one obnoxious example.
Okay, so give me another one outside of Donald Trump.
The Ayatollah of Iran.
No, that has been banned.
Well, I don't know
on that side.
I don't know him.
So then we even. Then they're doing their job. If you got one, I got one, then we even, right? Or
I'm not going to put Farrakhan in the same political influence category as Donald Trump.
What?
Now
75 million people didn't vote for Farrakhan.
He didn't run for office. Like,
but they
of course he wouldn't. But we're also talking about a country that is 70% white. So his chances of him in the stance that he has of making it is slim anyway. And I told you, conversation with Obama, number one, half white. Number two, he spoke to middle class. That's the only thing he said he was going to fix stuff for is middle class. We'll tax the rich, we'll let the poor suffer, middle class.
Right.
I got y'all.
So then is the only problem that you have is that other people aren't getting banned as well as Trump, or do you actually have a problem? Because the other part of it is where he had the rally, obviously the people who did the acts need to be held.
Anybody that crossed that mental barrier that day deserves to be prosecuted in full, the same way that everyone who rioted over the summer in every other town in America deserves to be prosecuted as well. A crime is a crime, period.
Because we end up in the situation where it's similar. It actually kind of is funny that it comes back to the same thing about the "you're next" tweet, right? Mm-hmm. Where regardless of who hears it, it's who acts on it that's responsible, right? So, like, because we hear a bunch of stuff all the time, and we interpret that. Just because Donald Trump said, metaphorically, I want to fight this process, or we should fight this process, or if he meant literally, it all is dependent on who acts on what part they take from that. So, is Trump responsible for what happened? For
1,000% still.
Okay.
And I mean, this is a kind of little old topic, but it still keeps coming back. The fact of the matter is, even if he didn't tell them to go down there, those are his constituents. These are the people, his followers. Like they follow him. So when he tells them to go down there and then they start acting up, if I tell my child to go down to the store and then I get a phone call, hey, your child is down here robbing the place, I'm immediately down to the store. What are you doing? He didn't take that initiative. And the phone call revealed that. He acted like he didn't know what was going on. He didn't care. He didn't say he didn't try to fix anything until 4 hours later?
So you're dealing with also the fact that he was in proximity, he was slow to react.
He was supposed to be there. He told his followers, I'm going down there with you.
And then he decided.
And he wasn't there. So the responsibility is this. If there is a crowd and there is a leader, the responsibility is on the leader of that crowd for what that crowd does. Okay. Period, point blank. Like, I don't see how we don't, like, this is, yeah. How do you not see that? I don't get that. If all of those people should be arrested, he should be arrested for at least inciting a riot. Bare minimum.
You see, because there's a lot of dynamics to this, because the other part of it is, I can tell already where you're coming from, Alex, whereas that you can't be, like, for example, is that, it's like speaking in hyperbole, where it's like, if you're, if like the "your next" text, What if somebody, this is then everybody, whoever takes that and goes, oh, they're next, and then they go kill that cop?
But we have to come off of that as well, because if LeBron is saying you're next, and that's what we want to, they made it seem like he's saying, well, you're next to die.
Right.
Cool. Who was the first? Where was the cop at that was before him saying you're next? Who was he referencing?
So you're looking for a history
The
of
reference
action.
point.
Yeah.
The reference point was being a cop being arrested for murder.
Mm-hmm.
Because, what's his name? Darren?
Derek Chauvin? Or?
Yes, Darren Chauvin had just been convicted.
Mm.
That was the reference point. So if you're going to say that LeBron's saying you're next as if I'm going to kill a cop, well, where's your reference point?
Right, because where's the track record of history?
So
right?
no, that was media purposely taking his tweet and manipulating it to seem to be something else, as if he's threatening to harm an officer.
Okay.
No, he's threatening him that other cops will come and arrest you and put you in prison.
Okay, but then to put it through a lens, then we have to take that same approach then to this event, the January 6th with Trump.
Yeah.
Is it being twisted, and how so?
I'm going off his words. If he said he was going to be there with him, if he spoke to the crowd beforehand, if he said we have to go down there and fight, at bare minimum, he should have been there with them to stop them. I believe. But that can't even be the bare minimum, because he wasn't there. So then, bare minimum, once you got the phone call, hey, they're down here acting a fool, you or send your people or whatever to get down there and stop them. The fact that the guards were told ahead of time to be laxed, which we obviously know that had to be the case, because they did it, they weren't resisting these people like they should have been. Period. They shouldn't have never been able to breach the Capitol. Period. So obviously there were things that was like I said, to me it's an old topic, not wanting to get into it, but the fact that it's to me it's very simple. People went down there, they broke into our Capitol, they committed treason, they desecrated areas of the Capitol. They were yelling, "Hang Mike Pence." That in itself should be a problem. When you're talking about hanging the vice president, like, nah. And Trump was telling them to stop Pence, because he was saying Pence is the one. All he has to do is just sign this little thing and it's over.
Even though
we'll still be here. He put the onus on Pence.
Yeah, even though Pence was more of a formality, where he didn't really have a lot of choice in that position.
I guess he had a choice that he could have done the wrong thing, but it was like, nah, this is just the way we do. This, like you said, it's a formality. It's the way we do it. Yeah.
All right, Alex.
Because he vehemently disagrees with me on that.
And a whole lot of that.
Well, because there's a lot, right?
Hold on.
Put it together so it comes out in the right way. We can disagree. We disagree a lot, so I don't have a problem with that part. I have a problem with a couple things you said, like defending LeBron James. All right. So where's the precursor?
Yeah.
Because you're assuming he meant something by "you're next." Well, where's the precursor to another riot or a fight that Trump ensued before? So we're going to go down there and fight for this or because of this or against this. In context means go raise hell, not go break into commit treason, to use your term.
And I can agree.
Give me the precursor to where he incited a riot before. Okay. And then to say then that he's responsible for all of that, then you could easily make the argument that BLM or Antifa are responsible for the multiple cities across the United States that were looted and burned and so forth in last summer and fall, post George Floyd, because of their inciting, watch out, here we are, Portland, all of that. So I hear your passionate argument and your disdain for Donald Trump. I hear that, and you're entitled to that, okay? But it doesn't flow. The argument that LeBron gets a pass because where's the precursor? Well, I would argue the same for Donald Trump. Then where's the precursor that you assume that he meant go invade the Capitol? Okay, and The original argument is him being banned from Facebook. Facebook is an independent private company. They can make their decision. But at some point, we have to recognize the influence that social media has in our world today. And when you can ban a Donald Trump, yet leave leaders of other countries who don't like America, want to kill Americans, want to commit genocide against other populations, doesn't have to be against America. It can be Syria versus Turkish people. I mean, I don't know, but I don't care. If they're saying that, but they're supporting that platform, allowing it to be up and not taking it down, at some point I think a reasonable person has to say that there's some hypocrisy here that is, if you're anti-Trump, just come out and say, we don't like Donald Trump, so we're not going to let him be on here. Not try to make it into something more than it is. What happened at the Capitol on January 6th was wrong, inappropriate. Anybody who crossed that metal barrier should be prosecuted. The same way that everyone who broke into a Target, a Walmart, a liquor store, burned a building or whatever over the summer in whatever city they were in, for whatever reason, when they broke a window and entered a building, or they killed a black security guard at one place. Now, I don't understand the political or social protest of robbing a liquor store. I don't know what they get out of that, or taking 4 TVs.
I haven't even heard that, but go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, that was one of the videos. They backed up to a liquor store and filled it full of, the high dollar liquors.
Did you see who did it?
What are you, well, they had a car, yeah.
Did they know the person where they were arrested?
No, they were doing it during the protest.
But I'm asking.
Well, no, they weren't
doing the
protest.
protest.
Yeah, they were doing it during the protest. And then at Target, you got a guy with a cart pushing 4 big screen TV, flat screen TVs out. What's the point of that protest? I mean, again, those are the parts that don't make sense to me. Is the hypocrisy of saying that this was, what happened on January 6th was such a thing, but all that happened over the summer was just dismissed as social unrest. Well, social unrest occurred at the Capitol. Now, again, if you cross that barrier, if that barrier was right there and you stepped over it, whether you just stepped over it and went, yay, or yelled, F you, or whatever, you're guilty of trespass at that point. Mm-hmm. Now, if you broke a window or got inside somebody's office, the felonies start adding up. Yes. The same way that I think if you threw a bottle, at a police officer, that's a crime during a protest. If they're standing there holding a line and you threw a bottle at them, that's a crime. If you broke a window in a Target and you went in and stole, I don't care what the purpose behind it was, that's a crime. So there's an interesting, and it's not just you and Elliot having this discussion. I mean, I think you know me well enough now. I'm not just upset about your place on it. You're entitled to feel however you feel about it. What's frustrating is the way that we frame this one event on January 6th as this horrible, horrendous, treasonous act. And it was. Anybody who did that, they committed a crime. But not frame everything that happened over the summer and the fall in every other city in America, even here in Atlanta, as not the same thing. That bothers me. Because I'll take my bias for Trump out of the picture and say, okay, then fine, apply your logic then across the board.
I have no issue doing it.
Okay then. But you're not as vehemently condemning the people that burnt Minneapolis as you are the people that broke into the Capitol, though. Where's the passion against their behavior where they burn their own communities and their own business? I don't hear it though.
No, you have.
I haven't.
I'm going to tell you what I said. The many times that I said that I disagree with their reasoning, but I understand. I told you I would have been down for that myself. Because there's things in this country I feel like need to change. And I say that if people look like me, had that same backbone, who had that same belief that that we have to go down there and we have to fight for this country to treat us the way that they're supposed to, that we'd be in a better place. But we don't have that. Why? Because just like when you want to point out with the looting and the rioting that took place during the protests, those people were arrested or beaten or ran over by cops and even killed.
Not all of them.
No,
nowhere near all of them.
Maybe nowhere near all of them. But on a regular basis, there were reports of 30, 40, 50, 60 arrests at these protests.
Okay.
So people were being arrested in numbers. They weren't having to go and review the video to figure out who did what months later. So it's a false correlation between the two. Because cops were there and they were active. active to the point of harming individuals. Now, outside of the pepper spray, outside of beanbag guns or any of that stuff, I watched videos of cops literally in their cruisers running over protesters that were in the middle of the street, not the ones that were looting and robbing. And so that's not the same in that. Number two, with Trump, it's not about anti-Trump, because I'm against the things that he's done or said. But if he want to continue running his mouth, I don't care about him running his mouth to that degree. I care about our country and our ability to say what's right and what's wrong and sticking to that. And if there's other people that want to keep following him, that's whatever. The guy that you keep bringing up who's committing genocide or whatever,
Yeah.
like, wants to commit genocide, feels like Americans, ban him. I don't even know who that. If he's saying the calls on to Americans,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
You don't think the Iranians do that?
I'm sure some Iranians do, but we must be talking about someone specific because we're putting them on the same level with Donald Trump here.
Well,
So we got to be talking about somebody who has power.
Yeah, the Syrian
Okay,
president,
cool.
the Iranian.
If he's saying these
whatever they
things,
call them,
why
Ayatollah.
Facebook haven't banned him, I have no idea. If they are, and
It's bias and hypocrisy then.
But I cannot say it's pure bias from Facebook because I know that they banned Louis Farrakhan swiftly.
Okay.
So I can't say it's pure bias because when Louis Farrakhan's belief, and his belief essentially has been that, yeah, we have to essentially get rid of the white devils because they have shown that if they got better weaponry than you, they will come and they will destroy. And that is through history. With that, I can name off all of them multiple times. If he feels that way, if he felt that says that, and he felt that way, Facebook said it's not okay. They got rid of him.
Right. But again,
and so that's
but again,
that can't be pure bias.
I can't believe I'm going to defend Louis Farrakhan. But, I mean, if he's being singled out the way Trump's being singled out, and others get placed on Facebook suspension or put in jail for 48 hours or whatever else. Again, most of the people that I know that's happened to is because of a conservative political view or challenging some of the COVID components or Biden or whatever. You know, they lock you up for 48 hours and then they unlock you, whatever. I mean, either, at what point I guess it boils down to what is the law that they keep talking about? It's a 304, it's the law that applies to when Facebook or Twitter become kind of like a newspaper has to be held to a certain account. Yes. If they report a conservative view, they have to report a liberal view, right? Because they're
not really.
Well, there is.
It's supposed to be. Yes.
It's supposed to be. Now you might get your liberal view on the front page and your conservative view on the back side of the last page, or vice versa, depending on what article, what magazine it is or newspaper. But at what point does Facebook begin to influence the content that is on their page, and when do they fall under FCC law? That's the bigger argument that's going on. So back to the point of defending Farrakhan and Trump, is that either there is freedom of speech and this is an open platform, or there is not. And if there is not, then there has to be an establishment of standards, and then that standard applied across the board. And I hear your passion, I hear your opinion, but you would have to agree that Trump and or Farrakhan was singled out and said, no, we don't like what you're saying, so we're going to cut you off. Not it violated X, Y, or Z articles or protocols or whatever policies we have, because then they would have to apply it to the Ayatollah of Iran or the president of Syria or, Joe Schmo up in East Texas who likes to talk bad about Louisiana people because that's a racist point of view. I mean, there's no consistency. So what they've done is limit freedom of speech for Farrakhan and for Trump, and they do it. And I know people, I guess maybe I have a lot of conservative friends, but I know people that it's happened to too. And, that is a manipulation that is unfair. And then you can try to say, justify it because he incited a riot or whatever. Then why did BLM's page never come down when, people are wearing BLM paraphernalia and they're burning down buildings. And I, and then you can say, well, a cop ran him over in the street. I don't know that. I think that would have been made a big deal.
I've said this multiple times.
Well, I mean, I think that would have been made a big deal out of if there weren't.
No.
The ones the only times I saw it is when they were attacking the cruiser and they were trying to get out, and a couple of people got bumped out of the way. I didn't see anybody get run over.
I've seen people get
there's absolutely video of protesters getting run over
by police officers.
Yeah, by police.
because the police officers needed to get through, but they were not attacking the car. But regardless, that's maybe one or two instances on video that regardless, bad stuff's gonna happen, so you can't apply that across the board.
Yeah, but I was gonna say though, I believe that this is an instance where we kind of got caught up in the minutia of what the media put out there for us, because I think that the real difference here is, i.e., you were pointing to the Syrian president.
I can't remember what Assad.
That leader. The difference may be in that is financially. At the end of the day, Facebook is a company. Donald Trump was one of this huge draws.
And
Louis Farrakhan's a huge draw.
Right.
And so you would think, well, why would they ban him? Because you know of people, and I know of people on both sides of the aisle who have been banned for 48 hours or even longer for just reposting something that somebody else posted, something minor. Mm-hmm. At least, and I say minor because their following is minor, and it's a repost, so it's still minor in scope.
Right.
But I think the difference is, first of all, there is no freedom of speech on social media. I understand that. I've learned that actually a long time ago just playing video games, because I couldn't post on my own profile things that I thought.
Right.
And I pay them for the service. It's not free like social media, but they banned me. So I knew that this is not just a free space to say what I want. There is no freedom of speech on social media, but when you get to the Donald Trumps and the Louis Farrakhan's, I think that it has to be a certain amount of backlash before they respond, because, like, again, this is a company. So their virtue signaling would be to say, hey, yeah, we don't think what Farrakhan is saying is right. 2, because 100 million of the, 500 million people that's on Facebook said, no, we're against that. And 100 million may be just a threshold. So then when you have that same number to attack Donald Trump, okay. But this leader in Syria, where we don't even know his name truly, may not reach that threshold.
His name is Assad.
But once it's enough people to say this is wrong, this is a problem on a consistent basis,
well, but then
I'm sure he will be banned as well. But he may be a large enough draw to get that, to have that leadway.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
No. No, because again, you're just randomly applying censorship as Facebook deems fit, whether that's influenced by people or by their opinion or whatever. There is no structure of fairness.
I'm not saying it's okay.
Well, it's not.
I'm saying that may be why they're operating in that way.
Right, but then if you say 100 million people are against Trump, I could put up 100 million people that are for Trump. So it doesn't make sense. And the advertising dollars alone, how much did they lose for conservative supporters? I mean, Donald Trump spent a load of money on advertising. Yeah, he did. I mean, that cost them. So,
because people are more likely to take action when they are angry than when they are happy. So therefore, if angry people say, you got to get rid of Trump, or we're leaving the platform, you know that more people are more likely to leave because of that. Now, the happy people are less likely to leave if you take away Trump.
Right.
They may leave, but they're less likely.
Then the people that disagree with Facebook try to go to a third party Parler, then they shut down Parler.
But Parler had its own issues. So, I mean, you're talking about a different company who actually, they would not ban any content.
Right.
So people
who are putting other
very inappropriate things like planning assaults, planning.
I got you.
You can't. Okay, we can all say if on Facebook someone was posting back and forth planning a crime, that probably would get you banned, right?
Or investigated.
Yeah, of course, at least.
Okay, so Parler, there was no they didn't have moderators. Facebook has moderators that are not paid. Those are just people like in pages and stuff like that. So you can't say Parler was the ideal change.
No, but it was an offer. It was an alternative, and then Amazon whatever reason, shut down their servers.
Because they wouldn't
Yeah,
they wouldn't
you don't
install
think there's-
moderators.
You don't think that that's a correlation between the conservative population that was leaving Facebook and or Twitter to go there? You don't think that that was another attempt by big media to censor a voice?
I
mean,
think
they'd be
I think
hard-pressed.
that Amazon, who has FU money that says you follow our rules or you don't get help.
Right.
Small conservative company said we're freedom of speech, we're going to do what we want, and they go, okay, cool, we have FU money, we're not going to help you. They didn't.
That doesn't
comply.
make it right.
It doesn't make it right, but
And
if they had
I
the
do
means,
agree with you on that.
Yeah.
100%.
It doesn't make it right.
I'm not saying any of these things are right. I was speaking on them. This is why they do it or they can't do it. But still I'm along the lines of just censor everything, because unless you're able to back it up, and also I do
Censor
think that
everything or
Trump.
censor nothing.
No, I'm saying there is no freedom of speech.
Right.
Period. Like there's no
There
freedom.
apparently is not.
There is no freedom of speech, especially on the internet. But also, I would say that if Trump did want to have that, why wouldn't he start his own platform? If you can get 75 million votes, start your own platform, and you're Trump. You can get everybody to pay to be on your daggone platform.
because that was the reason.
Not only is he talking about making money in that sense, but he have his own platform where he can say what he wants. And you know what? The news media is still going to always follow what he has to say and what he's doing.
And that was the reason.
So his platform, like, if he businessman, get your money.
Parler didn't have the infrastructure to host the site.
Right.
So if Trump had his own social media site, he would have to create the infrastructure and then do that.
And
that doesn't
I think
go
that's
well.
the delay in Trump having a platform, is that he's trying to do that now.
Trying to go blog-
And I thought
trying to
about
go
this
blog,
before.
yeah, like-
The first time they mentioned him being banned on Twitter, I thought like he should start his own platform.
And he
The
probably
first time
will.
I heard that, and I was like, yo,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the man's got in plan, and I didn't want this to boil down to only about Trump and
Yeah.
our differing opinions on him. But
'cause I haven't thought about him.
First
for quite some time,
Amendment
actually.
right of freedom of speech and religion and all of that is either applies or it does not. And I think this is an area that we've talked about before where randomly we apply this law because we feel this way. So our faith in politicians who are supposed to represent us, our political views, our social views, you know, we can, the influence of the individuals or the groups that have these companies or media, you know, outlets influence us to the point that, you know, you're very passionate about what you think happened on, you know, January 6th. And I see it in a completely different way because it was painted in two different pictures. And I see the riots over the summer in a different way because I look at it through a different lens than you do. Because I see it through a different lens doesn't mean that I'm going to censor what your opinion is. I'm not going to not let you say what your thoughts are about it, but I'm not going to not say what I want to say about it either, right? I mean, that's First Amendment. You know, that's the American concept that I need to be okay with you saying whatever you need to say, want to say, even if it goes against everything that I fundamentally believe. I will fight to the death your right to say it. I will. But what I'm experiencing, hearing, seeing happen in our country, I think we touched on this a little bit last week too, is that there is a movement and influence in America, critical race theory might fall into that a little bit, to shape the opinion of people through what is supposed to be an open dialogue of freedom of speech is now a controlled measure of influence in speech, and that I have a problem with.
I have to completely disagree with the way that you cite critical race theory in there, though. Critical race theory should sit in there in the exact same way that you're saying that Donald Trump should be able to say what he wanted, Louis Farrakhan or the president of Syria.
I think
Critical
it
race
should be-
theory is a theory,
it should
and so it should be able to. It should be fall right under freedom of speech.
But
So
not,
if a
but
teacher
not
wants to-
mandated as an
No, not
education.
mandated, and that's the thing too that we had to go through is because I did research that there was only one classroom in K through 12 where it was part of the curriculum, and that was it was the Thomas Jefferson High School in Fairfax County, Virginia, which is the #1 high school in all of America. It's a magnet school. It's 70% population of Asian Americans. And I guess that school is the only place where that situation was taking place.
No, in
And that's-
California it was already being taught. I mean, if I have to pull it up, I will. I mean, that's what stopped us last week.
Yeah, we would have to do that because
we're getting to the point
where we went back and forth on this, and I've been researching it. So I was like, I can't. We have to come to an understanding.
I moved on from that one. That's 2 weeks old.
Well, we brought it up twice here, and it's not, and it's still a continuing thing because, her name was Cecilia. Something I can't remember her name right off the top, but she moved down here. She had got a job offer for the Cherokee County to be the diversity administrator for Cherokee County Schools.
Okay.
She moved here from Maryland. She was a principal there. She moved there, and so the thing that keeps occurring is that she was accused of. Well, the whole reason that this ban happened for Cherokee County Schools is because she was being accused as the diversity administrator that she was sought after to be here. They accused her of bringing critical race theory here. She had never heard of critical race theory. Her words. She had never heard of critical race theory. And when she was asking these meetings by teachers and by parents, was she intending to bring critical race theory here? She told them no, that DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusion program that she was bringing there has nothing to do with critical race theory. I don't even know what that is. But that wasn't the end of it. And that's when they felt the need to bring up, well, if you don't have nothing to do with it, then you don't have an issue with us voting to ban it. And that's when they brought up the idea to vote to ban critical race theory in Cherokee County schools. She since has resigned this past week because she still is falling under harassment and attacks for it. And she said there's no reason for me to be here.
I don't think that's a complete... I happen to know somebody...
Well, I was going based off of her interview.
Well, I happen to know somebody who was involved in that.
Okay.
And that's not the complete content of the discussion. So whatever interview you saw...
So you say she's lying?
No, I'm not saying she's lying. I'm saying whatever interview you saw painted a picture a certain way. Because there were curriculums, there were things that were presented to the board to be included in the education program for Cherokee County. That is why the vote took place.
Yes, but it wasn't based on critical race theory.
It was, absolutely.
Okay.
That's why it was specifically named to be banned. They wouldn't have just said, okay, you can't teach anything about race.
I just told you last week with the transgender situation, they will do that. We will ban that. And that's what's happening across the country right now. They are shutting down freedom of speech for anyone who is speaking to the history of black people in this country. And they're using it through the guise of critical race theory.
No, man, I disagree with that. Critical race theory, like we talked about, implies that you are racist simply either consciously or unconsciously.
That's one aspect.
Because of the color of your skin.
That's one aspect.
That's a falsehood. And no one is not saying teach the history of America, the good, the bad, the ugly, any part of that. I haven't heard that from anyone.
You are hearing that when you hear ban critical race theory. Because they're taking everything that has to do with the history of race in America and they're shoveling up under the name of critical race theory.
No.
That's what they're doing. When people are trying to add new context, i.e. the 1619 Project. 1619 Project had nothing to do with critical race theory. But all of a sudden it's lumped in. And they're saying, well, 1619 Project is critical race theory.
I haven't heard that.
Okay, well, I heard that because the person who wrote the 1619 Project.
We need to stop talking about stuff where we would need to do prior, look, they're doing this or it's not that. We need to talk more about the theory and ethics of the situation, I think, because we're going to get into too much of that's not what I've heard and that's not what you've heard. You get me?
Well,
because that's where we're at right now.
The thing is that, all right, even with that, I have to disagree with you. And the reason I disagree with you on that is because, yes, we can sit down with the facts. We have time before show and after show to sit down with the facts. Mm-hmm. We can sit down and do that. Now, the thing that I think is, if we're both sitting here having this conversation, you could say, okay, well, I didn't hear that, or I didn't hear about that. We'll look into it. But to say it's not happening is something different. So there is room for us to discuss things, even if you haven't heard of it, or you don't know if it's true, or you disagree that it's true.
Okay.
That can be stated without saying it's false. Like it's just not. That's not what it is.
Right. So that's where we're at, though. Is that you get what I'm saying? Is that we're going back and forth saying what you're saying isn't exactly true.
Okay.
You get me?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be that way because when he gave the example of the liquor store being robbed, I hadn't heard of it. Mm. I didn't say, oh, that's a lie. or no, that's not true, or it's false.
But
I said I haven't heard of that. What happened?
But you guys saying what is included in the critical race theory and what is not, going back and forth doesn't go anywhere.
Okay. You just said the same thing 3 times, so I'm not gonna keep talking.
I know, because you've said the same thing 3 times.
Yeah.
Elliot.
I didn't say, but whatever.
You said
no. Here's what I hear. Here's what I hear is that it's a topic that you're passionate about. You do feel like that at some point, all of our discussion, whatever, about critical race theory, 1619 Project, all of it being rolled into one is an attempt to not educate young people about the
history of
the complete history of America, including the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
I don't know that I agree with that. Okay, I don't think that that's what's going on. I think my interpretation of the rulings that I know, particularly here in Cherokee County, is that that the education system is not going to endorse a theory for educational structure that states that a person is inherently racist or privileged based on the color of their skin, consciously or unconsciously. That's the part that they're not going to get behind. Now, educate about slavery, educate about the progress that we've made between women's rights, African American rights, the civil rights movement of the 60s. And I think from an educational perspective, you can include critical race theory as a chapter in a history book the same way that you include, the history of the Ku Klux Klan in some of them. And you can say this is what it was. I'm not endorsing it in any way and saying it was right, but it's there. It was a part of history, an ugly part. Not saying that critical race theory is an ugly part, but here's a part of what in the 1970s some professors got together at Harvard, and this is a concept that they promoted. It has evolved over the years, and this is what it encompasses now. I don't have a problem putting that in a book, but to let that part be the guiding theory of the whole education process is where I would have that for me would be a line, right? Would be like, I don't think that what you're implying that we're trying to not educate young people about the racial struggles of America. I don't think that's I don't feel like that's what I'm hearing at all of that. I feel like somewhere there's a disconnect between what you're hearing and feeling and what I'm hearing and feeling. And I can tell that you're passionate about it because you're ready to argue about it. And that's cool because that's what we do. But I think Elliot's being a little astute that we can't get past the impasse of this is your feeling and this is my feeling, and we may be apart on that. And there may be many people that agree with you and there may be many people that agree with me. I don't know, but we're not going to agree on everything. And in this case, without further evidence of what you're talking about, I can't get where you are on the concept that we are trying to not educate our children about the racial struggles of our country. Because if anything, this whole discussion brings the racial evolution of America to the forefront for discussion. Nobody's trying to sweep it under the rug and say it didn't happen.
It is.
Well, I don't.
That's exactly
but by nature,
and that's why I'm so passionate about it.
But I don't get that from
it's shown, and I know that. That's why I'm saying they're setting it up to say, hey, what we're trying to do is save white students, these little kids, from feeling bad because there were racists in the past. They're not acknowledging that there's racists today. They're not acknowledging that these kids are maybe in their homes being taught by racist people. They're not acknowledging.
But that goes both ways, though, brother. That's not just white people. That's black people too.
Hold on. They're not acknowledging that black people, and they're not acknowledging black people and the role that they have played throughout history in America. When you crack open a history book, you're not getting a real life history of America. So when critical race theory, which is, like I said, it's a theory, there's parts of it you can take and work with and the parts you want. It's been proposed to start teaching parts of critical race theory. And there were a lot of places that wanted it and said, yeah, we'll take that. The reason I told you it hadn't been taught, there's people who chose to say, yeah, we will take it, but they haven't actually started teaching it. This stuff would have started next year, essentially. And that's why people went on the thing of banning it everywhere that they can. But you're silencing scholars who have researched these things, who have looked into these things and say, hey, we need a more thorough explanation
I'm not
for what's taking place in this country.
anybody.
I'm not saying
just
you
heard me say
particularly.
that it should be included as a chapter in a history book, because I don't know that it's much more than a chapter in the evolution of America
Okay.
from a racial perspective.
But I'm not speaking about you.
But
I'm speaking about the boys who are silencing it
Right, and then you say
by
that
banning it outright.
when you point out the little white kid who may or may not be being raised by a racist, you could make the same argument about a black child too.
Let me go ahead and put a. Let me.
How about
Let me- let me-
any
let me-
child could be being raised by someone who has bias or
No,
racism?
this is I'll disagree with you on this, and I'm sure we'll just stay disagreed on this note. But when I tell you that I speak to racism as systems, as a design, the reason I do that is because the fact of the matter is, a black person being racist against a white person on a personal one-on-one level, he may want to step out and harm that person. So yeah, that's bad that you want to do that person like that. But why are you wanting to do that to that person? Could it be the 400 years of history that this person has in America? Could it be the things that you've seen, the way that you was raised in America? So you told him. So then, therefore, I'm saying it is reactionary. When it's a white person that's racist against black people, the vast majority of them don't even truly know black people. Don't even know any. So, and it's not that throughout the course of history, black people have done these horrible, horrendous things to white people like that.
I agree with that.
Throughout the 400 years that we've been
I
here.
completely agree with that.
So when, yes, people could call it reverse racism, anti-racism, racism back, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, I disagree with anybody who hates someone because of the color of their skin.
Yes.
I feel like you should be able to break this down to individuals. But for those
We
people
can get there.
who are there, I still don't call them racist because they're basing it off of the 400-year history of things that have taken place to black people in this country.
So then what is it? Vengeance?
It's vengeance. Like I said, it's reactionary. There is a causality to this.
Right. So
The cause is this,
if
the
a white
effect is
person
that.
does not like someone because of the color of their skin, that's racist. But if a black person does not like someone because of the color of their skin, that's vengeance.
That's why I say that's the way that I view it.
That's
The reason I view it that,
not
but the
making
reason I
sense.
view it that way, like I said, is because you have racism from white to black, where it's coming down, and it's coming down purely off of that. Black people that's racist against white people aren't racist against white people because they're white. They're racist against white people because of the things that you have done to us.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. I think this is going to have a continuing conversation in the next week.
Yeah.
It's a good jumping off point for us to then talk about stuff. So, if you stuck around this far, thank you. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and like the video. And everybody have a good rest of your week.